we balance our love for God and our fear for God?
Interesting. Love and fear. So, fear of God, it's called the beginning of wisdom. That's like one of the famous sayings. And like, there's this whole language in the church of God-fearing. Like maybe you've even heard that like in more general language. God-fearing. It's this word that means that you are respecting and honoring God, and you're realizing that there's a judgment, that you need to behave with that in mind. So you might want to be selfish or indulgent or cruel and resentful, whatever it might be. So you have these. You realize that within yourself you have these tendencies towards things that are just for yourself and maybe harmful to other people. But because of the fear of God, you choose not to do that, because again, you realize there's a judgment. I can't behave in this way because I'm going to answer for everything on the last day. But that's not enough to have it. Like, you can't have a good life. That's not why God created us, so that we would be afraid of Him, right? So what that means is that the fear of God is the beginning of wisdom. Yes, like you have that little spur to, and there are times all the way through, like you may at other times of life be at a point where, yeah, you love God, or at least you tell yourself you love God, but you're being fat and lazy, you're being neglectful, and that reminder that time is short, and that there is a judgment can really spur you on. Like we have this as part of our cycle every year is very much reminded. We have a Sunday of the Last Judgment, and a lot of Lent is on that. But again, like that's the beginning of wisdom. The rest of wisdom is much more profound, and what we were created for is love. That's why we're created, is because God loves, and God is love, and His love is so overflowing that it has to share it. Like, that's just like who He is. And so we see that's revealed to us in the fact that there's the Trinity. That God is such an overflowing fountain of love that He has a Son. So we have the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit as well, proceeding from the Father and resting on the Son. That's all part of this shared, mysterious communion that we don't really know ourselves. That's among them. But then it keeps on going. And they together created the whole universe, called it into being. Not merely the universe generally, but, you in particular. That would be enough. Like, creating you would be enough. Or you, or like this thing is that we are each one of us unique and a precious gift of God. That's this profound mystery that only He really knows. Even we ourselves don't really know ourselves. Only God sees clearly all the hidden depths of our heart. And He creates us to make it possible, and to invite us to love him. So that's this wonderful free relationship. There's nothing about it is coercive. Nothing about it is a threat or a bargain or anything like that. It's just, the kind of question that Jesus asks Peter at the end of the Gospel of John, where he says to Peter, "Do you love me?" 3 times he says, "Do you love me?" And he's asking that question because 3 times previously, when Peter was challenged and it was scary for him he was afraid of other things. He was afraid not of God, but of powerful men. He said, "I don't know the man. I don't know this Jesus that you're talking about. I'm not his disciple." And so Jesus there is giving him this chance to undo the damage, to heal the wound, to heal the breach, to return to that love. So he asks him, "Do you love me?" But it's an invitation. It's you could say no. You could say, I don't want to keep doing that anymore. This whole Christianity thing, I'm done. It's too much. And some people, that's the answer they give when Jesus asks them. Say, "You know what? I thought I did, but now that I'm finding that I'm putting it to the test, and it's demanding sacrifices of me, and that's the thing about love, is that any real love has sacrifice involved. If it's not demanding anything of you, if it doesn't cost you anything, that's not authentic love. It might be something else, infatuation, just a nice feeling, something like that. But love is costly. And so in this case, Peter says, "You know that I love you." And in fact, he did show that with the whole rest of his life. All the rest of his life was just working out the reality of his love for Jesus, his love for God. And that transformed Peter. Peter, up till that point, yes, he was enthusiastic. He was always wanting to try things out that Jesus invited him to do. He was always the one in the lead. But up until then, he didn't really understand the cost. And when it first came to that test, like I said, fear got the better of him. Not fear of God, but fear of men. Fear of what they might do to him if he said, "Yes, I'm a disciple of Jesus. Yes, I love Christ. Yes, I know the man." And so he hid himself. He lied. But thanks be to God, that wasn't the end of the story. Jesus, after the crucifixion, rises from the dead, and having risen from the dead, comes back to Peter and gives him this new chance. And after that, the whole rest of Peter's life is this new thing. You see it, like the difference between Peter before that point, before the crucifixion, and after this. I mean, it's recognizably the same man. He's still that courageous leader among the disciples. He's same personality, but now it's alive with that love. That love is it's like a driving force now, and it makes it possible for him to speak with clarity, to preach the good news of Jesus Christ crucified and risen from the dead, which he does in Jerusalem after Pentecost. It enables him to faithfully and courageously lead the church under great persecution. It lets him come to understand new things, like he understands that people don't have to follow the Jewish rituals of purity and like follow kosher to be a faithful Christian, that Gentiles can be welcomed as Gentiles into the church. It enables him to work tremendous miracles, raising people from the dead even in the name of Jesus Christ. That's not like that's the kind of thing that life-changing reality is not going to come from fear of God. That comes from love. And so that needs to be cultivated and like breathed on like a little ember into something that catches fire and can warm us and illumine us from the inside out. And in terms of like what to do, like how to actually encourage that, it is remembering who God is at the very heart of it. It is learning more, like read the gospel, read these things that the epistles, the Bible, the Psalms above all. Read the Psalms. If you're feeling like your heart is cold, if love of God is not a driving force in your life, I would definitely say read the Psalms. I was being reminded recently that we as Christians are encouraged to read through all the Psalms every week. It's a tall order. It's a lot to do. But it's not impossible. By any means is that impossible. And if you were doing that, if you were regularly reading through all the Psalms, whether you could do it in a whole week or some longer period of time, that's not the point. But to be regularly going back to that's the kind of thing that warms your heart, that reminds you both of... what it does is it's putting us into that place where we're not hiding from the struggles. Okay, because the Psalms, what they're doing is making profoundly real the human heart. You see psalmists who are fearful, who are upset, who are suffering, who are persecuted, full of anger and resentment and betrayal and envy and all of these happy emotions and grateful things. There's praise and thanksgiving, but there's also all these really painful experiences that are poured into the Psalms, and you recognize yourself in them. You as you're reading these Psalms, you're like, oh my gosh, that's my life story in that psalm. That's what I'm going through right now. And so you recognize those things that maybe you say, oh well, I can't acknowledge that as a Christian, that I feel that way, that I am right now angry at God, for example. Or I can't forgive my brother right now. Something like that. It's like, how can I approach God with that dark part of my heart? But then you read, it's right there in the psalm, someone testifying to that reality, that they're bringing it to God, and you come along for the ride. And that's good to be honest. And then out of that honesty comes grace. Because those psalms don't stop there at that place of bitterness, anger, resentment, whatever it is. They keep going. And the psalmist, whatever psalm we're talking about, there's the famous one, my God, why have you forsaken me? That's the one that Jesus begins quoting as he's dying on the cross. That's a powerful psalm. It's heart-wrenching to read that because it is just this profound testament to isolation and just this sense of the powers of darkness just uniting to destroy this righteous man, above all Jesus himself. But the end of the psalm is this confession of thanksgiving, of confidence in the justice and power of God, that he's ultimately not abandoned. And so to be going through that, to have this as a help to see the whole picture, where it is okay to bring these really dark thoughts and emotions to the surface and bring them to God. But then we don't stop there. We don't stop there. God sees all of that already. It's more us. We are the ones that have to confront it and acknowledge it. But then he sees that, but he sees the grace that is possible in you, the transformation that is possible, that you can go down through the depths and out the other side into light and joy and peace and gladness. And out of that comes love. Like, you can't help going through that and not learn to love God. Like, that's how you do it. And then, of course, the other part, you and I, we've talked before about this, but the other necessary part of this is to, meanwhile, be really intently looking for opportunities to love our neighbor. You know, that if it can't be just, you know, me and God. That's not enough. Because our calling is to be in communion with everyone else. Pardon me. Goodness. So we are saved together with everyone, especially our enemies, especially those that we have the greatest difficulty forgiving, the people that we want to avoid, the people that we have a hard time with. You know, what Jesus makes clear to us is that if we want the mercy of God, we need to be regularly practicing mercy to other people. That's how it works. You know, the Lord's Prayer, forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. It's like this exchange. Like, I give you the forgiveness of my neighbor, and God, you forgive me. That's this free exchange that happens. But if I break it down, if I say, no, I hate my brother, well then, that's a problem. Like, if that's where we draw the line, say, I love you, God, but I hate my brother. Well, St. John in his epistle says, you know, he who says that I love God but hates his brother is a liar. You can't do that. You know, you're telling lies if you say you love God but hate your brother, hate your neighbor. So that's the other part of the story, is that we have to be looking for those opportunities, opening our ears to the cry for justice and mercy and brotherhood that is all around us all the time. And we can't be just, you know, closing ourselves up comfortably in our houses and our cars and so on, and just not encountering those suffering people around us. So that's got to be part of our story, is connecting ourselves with their story, because, you know, on the last day, you know, tying this right back to the very beginning, the fear of God. What do we remember in the Last Judgment? Everyone remember the parable Jesus teaches about the sheep and the goats? Rob or anyone else remember how that goes? Someone want to? I see Tom's primed. You want to go ahead, Tom?
The sheep and the goats come before the judgment seat, and he says to the sheep, essentially, come to my right hand. When I was thirsty, you gave me drink; hungry, you gave me food; stranger, you took care of me; naked, you clothed me; when I was in prison, you visited me. And the sheep
Yeah. So, as you did it to the least of these my brethren, you did it to me. That's Jesus' word to us. That's God's word to us. So when we're looking at and that least, that's an important word there, because that's like the one that you're most tempted to overlook, the person that's least attractive, least appealing, least interesting or inviting to you, the one that's really ugly, offensive, not your kind, the one that you really would just like to, like in the parable today, see them and cross to the other side of the road and just go on your way. That's the one that God is saying, that's me that you're ignoring right there. So that's the test. So yes, I think we start with the fear of God. Like that's kind of where the rubber meets the road. If you don't have that to kind of kickstart the engine, you can like basically tell yourself nice lies all the time that, I love God, but you're never doing anything about it. Then the engine has to actually start kicking over and moving, and that's going to be this learning what love actually consists of. That's what we've been talking about. And then reminding ourselves and coming back to that truth at the end, that we can't forget that in the end, the fear of God and the love of God are actually one and the same. They are the same thing, because what the test is, what the judgment is all about love. Because in the end, this is all so that we can live with God. That's what it's all about, is to live with God, rejoice with Him forever. And God is love. That's great news. It's also really bad news, because that love is pure love. It is unremitting love, uncompromising love. And when we come into that presence and we are unloving, we are still filled with hate and resentment and self-centeredness and all the rest. If that's what fills us up, well, then we're going to look and smell to God like a goat. And we can't be in His presence like that. Coming into the all-consuming fire of His love for someone that is basically been making of their heart hell, that love is going to feel like hell. And if, on the other hand, you've been in stumbling, confused, uncertain ways, been learning more and more how to open your heart to love God and love your neighbor, when you come into His presence, that consuming fire will purify you. It will make you something, it will make you more truly who you really are. And then, you'll look and smell like one of the sheep, and enter into His presence with thanksgiving and find a home with Him, because you will be at home with Him. You will have been cooperating with Him in making of your own heart heaven. So, ultimately, they're not two different things, but the same. But they each need their different focus, if that makes some sense.